So we're going to be here for about an hour and 15 minutes. A big portion of that, I expect, will be for people in the audience to ask questions, and so I'll be very grateful if you think of some highly intelligent questions. I'm sure you've got them amongst them, and put them to the panel a little bit later on. Let me introduce all the members of the panel to start off with first, including myself. My name is Paul Gordon. I work for Bloomberg Television in Hong Kong. So we are continually reporting on what exactly is going on around the world in terms of being based in Hong Kong. Asian markets. Now, not so long ago, Bloomberg set up its headquarters in the region in Japan, in Tokyo. Not surprisingly, that's where most terminals, where Bloomberg gets its money from, are sold, and nominally the headquarters is still there, but the news arm has effectively moved to Hong Kong, and the reason we moved to Hong Kong was because of the China story, and from there we've spread out to all other parts of emerging Asia, and increasingly, of course, here in India, the other billion-person economy, the other big growing economy in the world. The Indian economy, as the finance minister today said, he doesn't know how fast it's going to grow this year, but 7% or so is entirely possible. That's more than 3 times as fast as the global economy. So, yeah, India, in theory, is not as badly affected as the rest of the world. The question is, how do you sustain that growth? And what I want to do is start with a short segment from a book published last year and updated this year by the man formerly known as the most powerful man in the universe. I refer, of course, to Alan Greenspan, the former chairman of the Federal Reserve. And whatever you think of his book, and particularly his comments on the financial crisis, he has some very insightful points to make on technology and other factors. He says a number of global forces have gradually, almost clandestinely, altered the world as we know it. The most visible to most of us has been the increasing transformation of everyday life by cell phones, personal computers, email, Blackberries, and the internet. A large percentage of the world's population gained access to technologies that I, in setting out on my long career in 1948, could not have imagined except in the context of science fiction. And as we all know, the world is radically different, not compared to 1948, but to even 10 years ago. Huge differences, and one of our panel members here can talk a little bit about that. Let me introduce who we have. I'll go from starting in the middle. We have Ashwani Kumar, Minister of State in the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This comes just as the Prime Minister, reportedly at least, held a meeting yesterday to discuss the export industry, supporting the manufacturing industry and developing the manufacturing industry in India. On my left here we have Deepak Puri, who is Moser Bayer's Chairman and Managing Director. He's based here in New Delhi. This is India's biggest maker of compact discs for PCs. Right next to him, just checking that everything in the right order, we have, sorry, who do we, apologies there. We have Jörg Müller, who is the Chairman and, President and Managing Director of Volkswagen India. This is a company which has been making the news recently, of course, because of the short squeeze. The stock has caused problems for a few of the wealthy members of German society. But more importantly, this is a company which has been growing rapidly in India over the last first 3 quarters of the year. I think passenger sales in India were up 70%, passenger car sales in the first 9 months of the year, correct? Mm-hmm. So there we go. So doing well. So we'll hear a little more from him. Right next to him we have Shailesh Rao, who is the Google India Managing Director, a man who may now be rethinking the competitive landscape. If you saw the news today, Yahoo's co-founder and chief executive Jerry Yang has resigned, and that may mean there's a potential for a deal between Yahoo and Microsoft. So that changes the world for Google, but we're going to hear a little bit about what Google has done for the manufacturing sector. There's not much you hear about when it comes to that company. Next to him we have Stephen Veldhoen, Booz Company Managing Director for Asia. This Booz Company claims to be the oldest management consulting company still in the business, quote unquote, according to its website, which probably says a lot about the survival of management consultancies in the world. But his company does date back to 1914, so it's been around quite a way. And next in we have Alan Ma, who is BT Asia Pacific's president. He's coming to us from Hong Kong. This unit sells security, telephone and internet services to companies around the world, including some major multinationals, Procter & Gamble and the like. So we're going to hear a little bit about how telecoms is affecting manufacturing growth. But let me open the floor, first of all, to the Minister and find out exactly what he has to say about the world today. Ashwani Kumar.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me compliment the forum for choosing a very, very apt theme for this morning's discussion. Big bets in technology and manufacturing was the obvious topic in the country today. And I must, on a personal note, share some information with you. When I was inducted as the Minister for Industry, the Prime Minister asked me what my priorities should be or would be, or what would I prefer to do. And without really batting an eyelid, I said, sir, I would like to, if it pleases you, concentrate on manufacturing. And he said, so be it. And therefore, I am convinced of the fact that the industrial edifice or the economic edifice of any country ultimately must rest and be anchored into its manufacturing competence and manufacturing abilities. The brick and mortar economy, which continues to give employment to large numbers of people, is inextricably connected to manufacturing in one way or the other. The issue, therefore, for India is how do we balance the mix between agriculture, services and manufacturing. We have a real challenge, and the challenge is that although we have made considerable progress in manufacturing, in lean manufacturing, in competitive manufacturing, in efficient manufacturing, the fact remains that India's share in global manufacturing is merely 1.8%. Our share in global trade or in terms of exports of goods is only 1.5% as compared to China's share in global manufacturing at 12%. We really need to move very fast and very quickly to be able not only to become viable traders on the global scene in terms of international trade of our manufactured goods and of our industrial goods, but we also need to ensure large employment to very large number of unemployed youth who still live on the margins. And that's a challenge not only of politics, it's a challenge of economics. At the same time, we need to ensure that through the efficient deployment of technology, our productivity increases, the quality of our products increase, they are competitive globally in terms of quality and price. That has remained the perennial challenge, but it has been brought into sharper focus because manufacturing today, despite the fact that it is growing by 9%, needs to grow by 12 to 14%. We would therefore need to deploy capital intensive and high technology into our manufacturing. Now that leads to another challenge. If you have high-tech manufacturing, what happens to labor-intensive industries? What happens to jobs which are displaced as a consequence of superior efficiencies in the deployment of technology and capital? Now these are the challenges that stare us in the face. The National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council has come out with a very extensive report. We are going to have a major program in skills upgradation because there's another dichotomy in this country. While we need people with skills to be deployed into manufacturing, and we have large number of people who are available but who are not skilled. And therefore we need to upgrade those skills and we need to absorb this otherwise very productive human resource of the country into gainful employment. So therefore the threefold challenges of ensuring competitiveness in terms of price and quality, the need to employ large number of people in labor-intensive manufacturing, and third, to ensure equities on the social and economic side, which will give to every stakeholder a real stake in the success of our manufacturing. Finally, I would like to say that India is resolved and has determined to move forward very quickly to ensure that we grow our manufacturing by 12 to 14% on a sustained basis so that manufacturing constitutes at least 25 to 30% of our GDP as against 15 to 17% at this time. These are my opening remarks. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that, Minister. I'm going to ask for about a 2 to 3 minute comment from all the panelists from left to right now. So if we can start with Deepak Puri, Mozabea.
Thank you. I'm a student of science, so I'll try and sort of walk you through as to why manufacturing and technology are of the utmost importance to India. I'll start from A and take you to Z and a QED thereafter. First of all, I recall about 10 months ago, a newspaper headline stating India has arrived, after listening to somebody on the previous occasion from the finance ministry say that it's about 9% GDP growth expected this year. And I had the occasion of meeting up with the editor 2 days later and asked him, what are you talking about, India has arrived? He said, yes, we have arrived. GDP growth has been consistently great, absolutely. I said, what happened to those guys you left behind on the platform? 250 million people are below the poverty line. And 25 million out of them live less than $1.50. And I said, look, today that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I say to you, no country can pass through and become a prosperous country without first passing through from the agricultural economy, which is actually a base economy, into a service economy via the manufacturing process of manufacturing and setting up large manufacturing base. So, because manufacturing has a great deal of collateral advantage. Collaterally, manufacturing produces, I've got the time, I'm looking at the time.
It's okay.
Manufacturing produces 3 service jobs. Each job of manufacturing produces 3 service jobs and produces 5 what are called support manufacturing jobs. If you take a company like ours, which is Mozabea, I have the privilege of leading, if we have 12,000 employees, can you imagine 36,000 employees of some other companies provide what is called service jobs to us, and additional 12 fives are 60,000 people provide additional manufacturing facilities as inputs to us. So manufacturing and then application of technology. And as the minister said very clearly, technology is an enabler to be able to become a creator. We are a technology company today, and we have used technology to reach a stage where we have become number one, as he said, number one in India. No, we are number one in the world today. We produced 3.7 billion discs last year. Now, technology is the thing which becomes the enabler. Our country has to reach a double-digit growth in the country to be able to give those 250 million left behind in this race, in this entire movement of India going forward. Even if 2 to 3% of that GDP growth goes to those people, India will be changing and it will have a right at that time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me pass it on to a man who uses an enormous amount of technology in his business, Jörg Müller of Volkswagen.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As we are on the way to start our manufacturing operations in India, I would like to give some views from the practical point of view. First, we should think about what will happen in the automobile market, because this is very important for us, because at least we are coming with an investment of about 480 million euros here to India, and this is the biggest investment coming from Germany since ever. What is positive is that the passenger car market had a growth rate of about 16% in the last 2 years, and even if the passenger car market in 2008 will remain more or less on the same level as it was in 2007, all the market experts are optimistic for the future. We think that the actual market situation does not reflect the long-term view. The long-range trend in India is positive, and there are several reasons for this. The current passenger car density is very low. Here in India, we only have more or less 10 cars per 1,000 people. The growing middle-class population with more disposable income is rising up. The government is investing on infrastructure to support the auto mission plan, and an extremely young population, from my point of view, is a very huge future asset if these people are well educated and also healthy. We see our investment is more than a pure investment. It gives a positive impact on the buying power. Some positive effects in these investments are building up of infrastructure around the plant and around the investment and in further areas. Further investments of supplier will happen, and this also will cause employment in their areas and regions. Suppliers are becoming a part of the global sourcing strategy of our Volkswagen Group, which is, to my mind, also a very important opportunity. And not to forget the positive impact on the development of the regional economy in general. For example, also small retailers and others will have positive effects on this. For us, the supply side in India is positive, but not only on the demand side, also on the buying power is coming. And this, for this, it is very important that we see, and this I would like to say, and I tell it everywhere, we see the need to enforce the basic education and the vocational skills. This is very, very important for us to make sure that effective, you said lean plant, lean manufacturing operations are able to run. Skilled workforces are very, very important. We see that there is a huge talent pool in India. There are lots of qualified employees available and qualified suppliers, which is also very important for us as a manufacturer, are specialized in various fields. The government is improving the infrastructure, for example, by investing in industry parks. This is something which should remain also in the future, even there is this kind of crisis or something like that. At the moment, it is very, very important that there is a positive climate for investment, also especially for foreign investment maybe. The cost of labor still are very competitive. This brings also an advantage. And we see a high potential for innovation, even if it's more at the moment in the field of development than in the field of research. These are more or less several points which are important for us to give you a view why we decided to invest here in India. And even if we have this situation which is now at the moment, we are optimistic and we are happy to be here, and we see a very positive future. Thank you.
If I can put it over to Shailesh Rao, Google India.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Obviously, Google's contribution to this conversation will come from the perspective of a software provider, software largely delivered and enabled and constructed for distribution over the internet. And clearly, our point of view is that software is essential and strategic and to the future of multiple sectors, including the manufacturing sector, in a variety of ways. Through the course of the conversation, I'll come back to that theme and talk about the role of software. At the simplest level, I'll also talk a little bit about our point of view on India. Certainly for us, India is not only a major market, but a major source of tremendously capable talent. But more than those two obvious statements, India has the potential to be a laboratory for much of the developing world and for many global products potentially. And that is the singular opportunity, I think, for the country, and certainly from our perspective for us in India, which is going back to the dilemma or the paradox that was presented by the minister. Our point of view, perhaps overly simplistic, is that technology drives productivity, productivity drives growth, and growth creates jobs. And while in a static view, there's always the constant tug and pull of greater productivity potentially creating an issue for jobs and vice versa. In the not necessarily in the long run, in the medium term and even in the short run, growth has many, many positive benefits, and the opportunity for the country today is to complement the clear expertise and services with product creation, intellectual capital development, and that is the principal opportunity in the next decade, is who in India, which organizations will create the intellectual capital, will build the products, not only for India, by Indians, inspired by the Indian market, but for the larger emerging markets and the developing world, as well as the global economy. And that will be, we believe, one of the important indicators for long-term economic growth and prosperity of the country is our ability to deliver intellectual capital and create great products. And we're very focused on building great products, not only for the market, but from the market for the world, and talk more about that through the course of the morning.
Okay. Then from Booz Company, Stephen Bilhone.
Thank you, Paul. We'll talk a little bit about manufacturing. I'm an optimist at heart. That's hard work these days, by the way, but that's what I am. I'm actually quite optimistic about manufacturing in India. Let me give two thoughts, and then we can go into the discussion after that. One is that I think at least I know one area at least where India has created what I would call a center of excellence of both manufacturing and development. And that's particularly within the automotive industry, the small car sector, the categories A and B. And if I look at what has been developed over the last couple of years in that regard, it's an area of world-class standard. Goes easily to comparison with Europe and other regions. It's both development and manufacturing. It's both for the Indian market and for the export market. It's both OEMs and suppliers. It's both done by Indian companies and it's done by foreign companies. So I can see at least one example, and so I see other areas developing as well. The other force that I'll talk a little bit about is what I would call the gravitational force of development. I think it's a well-known theme, and it's been discussed a little bit over the last couple of days, that innovation is global these days, essentially. And there's actually quite a lot of innovation investment and development investment flowing into India. And in the part of discrete manufacturing, or say product manufacturing, maybe a slightly different way than Shaila's talked about it, what people usually do is they start at what I would call the back end of the value chain of innovation. And Jörg talked a little bit about it. What I think that companies who do that see that eventually they have to go from component design or tinkering with a component to subsystem design all the way to product creation and product development, because if they don't do that, they can actually not attract, develop and retain the best people. And at the heart of every technology center and every development center live the best people. Now again, in discrete manufacturing, once you've created that type of a development sector, that type of development center, makes a lot of sense to put manufacturing quite close to it, because there's a lot of integration between manufacturing and development. So I see India going through a phase where there's a lot of development and innovation money coming into India, and then eventually on the discrete manufacturing side, I think manufacturing will follow over the course. So I see some developments that are very positive. I see one example, one very good example that's very positive. So like I said, I'm optimistic.
Okay, and Alan Marr of BT Asia Pacific.
Thank you, Paul. I'm very pleased to hear from Minister Kumar that India is resourced and determined to grow manufacturing. Absolutely agree. And I'm not coming from a manufacturing sector. The business we're in is to enable people like manufacturers to grow and to participate in globalization. So I want to provide a couple of suggestions from a technology and support perspective based on one hypothesis. And the hypothesis is that agility, branding, and innovation are the keys to a successful manufacturing sector in the 21st century, and that the manufacturers have to move very fast to serve even more sophisticated, well-informed, and connected customers who want innovative products. So that's the hypothesis I'm putting here. And I think India needs to make two bets. The first bet is about virtual manufacturing. The second bet is about Generation Y. So let me spend a couple of seconds on each one of this. By virtual manufacturing, we mean creating a business that at its core, as its core competence, can innovate products so that it can meet real customer demand. And then alongside, surrounding the core competence, will be the ability to produce, to deliver, and to serve customers on a global basis without necessarily all the means of production under one roof. We know that the Dell computer model, the Apple computer model, they are really classic examples of virtual manufacturing. I would really encourage Indian manufacturers to follow this approach. There are a couple of benefits of the virtual manufacturing approach. Firstly, you'll be able to leverage on the global innovation ecosystem. This is a huge ecosystem that can help you accelerate. And you'll be the first to meet demand for new products and also serve new markets while you grow. And then alongside with this, there's also a bonus to India, because while you're building your local production footprint, pushing out for export, you'll also be investing into key infrastructure like transport, energy, ports, etc., which are all going to help India make progress in the next couple of years. The second bet about Generation Y is a really interesting one. I know that there have been a couple of Indian brands which have become very global now, but relative to the Western Hemisphere, and also because of the rise of China recently, I think India really needs to do a catch-up game in terms of building truly global branding. And there is an opportunity for you to catch up. And this is because of the Generation Y. Generation Y is a community of customers who are on the rise, who want to stay connected all the time. They have a very different way of making their buying decision and also wanting to have services provided to them. And I believe this is a platform where you can build global brand very quickly. I want to provide a couple of data points to get your attention here. Between January and August, the number of blogs on the internet has grown from 63 million to 110 million. It's a huge number, okay? And there are more than 100 million videos a day being uploaded to software platform like YouTube. There have been more than 123 million users on social networks such as Facebook, and also more than 10 million Second Life users having been created in the accounts. And there are about 1.5 million residents log on to the virtual world every month. So all these numbers are telling you that the next generation of customers you want to serve are using some very unconventional channel for you to be served and to get their attention, okay? So how should India enable these two bets? I have two recommendations for you. Firstly, it's about speeding the flow of goods across the borders while you're building up your manufacturing sector. You know that today, product lifetimes are really measured in days and weeks rather than years and months as in the previous decades. Manufacturers today cannot afford the time spent processing these goods through the time-consuming custom bureaucracy. In your neighbor, you have city-states like Singapore, like Dubai, who have been attracting some primary source of revenue, not from manufacturing, but from trade, okay? But they've been investing heavily into technology that can enable fast and efficient flow of goods through the borders. So they're really getting a good share of the wallet that would otherwise have stayed in manufacturing countries like India and China. So I think we must learn from these states. And my suggestion to you is that for those who want to enhance your manufacturing capability, you must enhance the ability to trade in equal measure, okay? The second recommendation I have is about collaboration excellence, which is very important to my first bet about this virtual manufacturing. I think the key enabler of virtual manufacturing is that the enterprise will be able to quickly and securely attract and integrate partners operating in the ecosystem. This is not a simple task, in my opinion. And today, collaboration excellence is enabled by a large number of collaboration tools. And all these collaboration tools are independent of the specific technology or applications used by each member within the ecosystem. And these tools are available today. On this tool, I want to provide two examples of what my company has been doing to help our customers. The first one is about a leading aerospace OEM customers. And just last week, they convened their fourth meeting with my team to explore how this company can enable its globally dispersed engineering team to function as a single entity, unhampered by time zones, location, or different technology platform used by different team members. And this OEM company is not looking for a traditional software-based solution. They're looking for the network to help them solve the issue, okay? So we provided them with a platform called Virtual Collaboration Room, and they've been using this one to help them achieve their objective. The second example I can provide to you, I'm not sure whether this company has outlets in India yet, but it's a high-street fashion retailer coming from Spain, Sarah. Some of you may have picked up the brand. They are using technology and also virtual manufacturing to enable it to churn its product line once every 2 weeks, which is exceptional. 2 weeks churning at the retail level. And they've been enhancing the ability to bring fresh new clothes to the high street, and they will keep customers coming back and then increase their sales volume, okay? So let me repeat the hypothesis I put out at the beginning of this session. Agility, branding, and innovation are going to be key contributors to your success in the future. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you very much for the panel to those opening statements. I'm going to put a couple of questions to a few of the panel members, and then we will open the floor to questions, and you can address your questions whoever you like. I do want to pick up on a point that Alamar just noted there, and it's not specifically a technology point, but it is one that has technology implications, or the development of technology implications, and I want to address it to Minister Kumar. This was about cross-border cooperation, effectively. The biggest criticism, perhaps the biggest criticism I've heard over the couple of days I've been here in Delhi talking to various business leaders, is how difficult it is to work across state borders with India. That is, you have export taxes, you have delays at the borders, you have your trucks waiting 2 days to cross a border. And that must hinder the development of technology. There's no point developing systems that allow you to transfer goods quickly if the truck is still stuck at the border, 48 hours after you sent it out. I wonder if the government is working towards creating more of a homogeneous internal market, the kind of thing that has helped the US be so successful over the last 100 and so years.
Well, quite clearly the movement is in that direction, but it is easier said than done, because there are political processes and political aspirations at work which don't necessarily merge very well with the quest for technological excellence until and unless we really sort out the seeming clash of interest between states' desire to collect as much revenue as possible and the national aspiration to remove bottlenecks to technological excellence and to a competitive economy. However, having said that, the fact remains that we have gradually but quite decisively moved in that direction. The introduction of VAT is a case in point, the rationalization of duties is a case in point, the use of technology in collecting toll taxes is a case in point. Yes, a lot more needs to be done. The point is well taken. It is something which is on the radar. It is something which we are conscious of. But in a democratic polity, in a democratic country, processes towards efficiency also take time, and we are only hoping to expedite the processes towards a successful resolution of these issues.
Mm-hmm. The other major call we've been hearing quite a lot at these sessions is for some kind of a stimulus to the Indian economy. China came out with a stimulus package of $586 billion, worth about 20% of GDP, though of course it's not all new spending. We've seen stimulus packages in Japan, in the US, in Europe, and so on. We have seen stimulus packages here in India as well, but on a much smaller scale. Now, I don't want to get into the broad idea of should you have one or not, but if there were to be one, are you as a minister arguing for funds that could be targeted towards the technology aspects of the economy to improve productivity?
Well, we have a very extensive program by way of stimulus. Most of it has already been built into the last budget. As the Prime Minister recently stated, that we've got the stimulus in place, but we will give it the extra push. We are committed to giving a major stimulus to infrastructure development, which will automatically jumpstart and kickstart various other sectors of the economy. Technology will be integral to all these focuses. I don't think there's going to be, in the government, on a very substantial basis, a fund dedicated only to technology, but almost everything that is being done will have a technological impetus. However, I would like to add that we are conscious of the fact that we need to spend more on R&D, we need to spend more on processes that commercialize technology, and we need to spend more on giving that extra push to technological excellence, which is being stalled so far for lack of adequate funds. We all know that the US led in the technological race because of the large amounts of funding that Pentagon had from the government, and therefore there was a trickle-down effect. All of that we are aware of, and I am sure that in the coming years, irrespective of governments, there would be an extra emphasis on R&D, and the ability of the products of the government-sponsored R&D being available to the private sector is something that we need to ensure, and we are moving in that direction.
Deepak Puri, two things really. One, I will tell Bloomberg you're the biggest in the world in your field, not just in India, so I'll make sure we get that sorted out. Secondly, do you agree with that policy approach? Do you think there needs to be a specific fund, a specific department within government, or whatever it may be, to target technology, or your company's done very well without necessarily that specific support instead of more diverse support?
Thank you. That's a complex question, but anyway, if I take it up in the individual level of our company, first of all, we are a widely distributed technology organization. It is just not optical media. We are into semiconductors, two fully operational right now. Now, coming back to, as you said, India per se, I didn't understand fully your question on that. Can you just explain it to me once again?
Are you talking about the question about technology? What I'm saying is, do you think India lacks a specific technology focus from the government, whether it be long-term or whether it be in a specific stimulus package needed for these difficult times?
Thank you. Yeah, the government has announced already a very, very extensive stimulus package it's called the semiconductor policy. In fact, it encompasses a large number of products on the technology sector. But remember one thing, a technology, as I said earlier, is an enabler plus it is also a creator of jobs. So this government having announced this, let me give you some factual statistical data on this. 65,000 crores, now that works out about $15 billion of projects have been announced under that package. The government has just received those as yet as the first about 20 semiconductor projects. I am fairly certain in the next year or so, this will mushroom into a much larger scale. So I'm fairly certain again, I'm just going to walk you backwards. When we started 12 years ago, optical media, today we have become the world's largest. One. Two, if you look at the Indian technology side, it's based on technology as the enabler. The automobile sector, the small automobile sector, is one of the leading sectors in the world today. So similarly, 5 years ago, when you got cell phones, they were all made in China. Believe me, 2 years from today, 3 years from today, most of them will be made from India. So this stimulus package, I'm fairly certain, will provide a great deal of technology development in India. Lastly, please remember one thing, our government is very proactive. It works fairly closely. It has, as the minister has said, it has some compulsions because of the very democratic and political nature of our working. Thank you.
Okay, and you noted that technology is enabler plus, and that does bring the aspect, as a couple of our panelists have mentioned, of people and the skills in order to develop technology, use the technology, create products with the technology, and improve the technology, of course. Shailesh Rao, let me put this to you first of all, because you're in such a new field, relatively speaking. Do you find you can attract the talent in India that you need to develop the products that you want to develop?
No question. We've had a very good experience in our short time in India finding amazing talent, and talent that I would say competes with the best of people that we have in our company globally. There's no question. In fact, India today represents the second largest employer for Google outside of the U.S. Of course, U.S. is far and away the largest employer for the company, but India is very prominent in terms of our employment of people. So there's no question that our track record and experience suggests that there is tremendous talent in the country, and talent that we believe will not only serve our global business, but our ability to develop products for the country. But I do think there is a broader potential concern, or let's call it unrealized opportunity, which is how do you take the technical talent of the country and provide an environment which sets them up for success and allows them to take risks, where the risks have a potential to lead to failure. And that, to me, is at the heart of generating intellectual capital, which leads to building great products, in our case, great software products, which ultimately leads to new products and services, new companies, growth, and ultimately jobs. So that is sort of the chain of events. Just a quick statistic, and of course, this looking at patents is rife with issues. But if you do look at a crude way as a proxy for innovation, in India, that patent applications have actually declined over the last several years, which seems to work at odds with sort of the prevailing point of view or belief on the technical prowess of the country. And I think that it doesn't have to do with the skills and the capabilities. It has more to do with a mindset and a particular educational regime which drives people to innovate, design new products, build new products. And so that to me is a point of concern, but also an opportunity, because clearly the skills are here at a critical mass, and it just needs to be incented to develop great products.
Right. And of course India has made a world name for itself in software products generally, with particularly many of the companies outsourcing business from the US. But Jörg Müller at Volkswagen on the heavier industry, on the manufacturing industry, again, same question. Are you finding you can attract in India the people with the skills necessary to achieve the product advancement that you want to do?
Yes, absolutely yes. We find the people we need, and a lot of people are interested to come to us, let's say voluntarily, and this is a very positive experience we are facing now. And the skills the people have, especially when they are coming from universities with this basis, the university basis is very, very positive, and especially also the motivation and the engagement the people are showing. This is also very important. They feel that they come, in our special case now, to a new company, new in India. We want to conquer the market and all this kind of stuff. So the people are very, very optimistic also, and this is a very, very good combination. So knowledge, sometimes also good experiences when they're coming from, when they're moving from one company to the other. But important for us is also to have a good mixture of people, not only experienced people. This is important in the beginning when we are working as a startup, but later then also we are happy to get people coming from universities which are not so well experienced, but it is a good mixture for us, for the climate, and also for the drive to get process excellence. And this is especially important for us now. If we want to have high quality products, we need from the product side technology excellence, but especially in implementing now the process and all this, we need process excellence. And therefore the really good people are here in this country available, and this is a very, very good thing.
Okay.
The topic, one more point I would like to add. I always talk about the topic of vocational and the basic skills. This is very important. The university side is, from my point of view, in a far more better situation than the area where the basic skills are coming from. This is important if you want to run a plant where you have newest technology in paint shops, in body shops, and all this kind of stuff. This is high complicated, and therefore you need people who want to work with their hands. This is also important, and they have to bring the knowledge also to maintain all these things. If there are problems in production, immediately you have to find solutions, you have to find the error and all this kind of stuff. And this also needs to bring very, very skilled people. We find people here coming from schools and institutes, ITI and so on. They have some basic skills, but we are not having a system as we know it maybe from Germany or something like that. Or take me as an example. I'm an electrician. This is my basic skill. I learned it is so important. Till today I have a positive impact while I'm together with my team and talking about the things because of that. And after university and everything, this makes the picture then around. And this is something what we need here. And therefore we have to do quite a lot of efforts to bring these special skills to the people we are hiring. And there we are doing a lot already now.
Okay. It looks like the odds, the prospects for India then are pretty impressive in terms of merging technology and manufacturing for the future, and therefore taking productivity to the new level. We've got 30 minutes left in the session, so I do want at this point to open the floor to questions. I would ask a couple of things. When you ask a question, please say who you are and where you're from, and please keep your question pretty short, and I'll ask the panelists to keep their answers short as well. Let me first hand up right there in the middle. And say who you want to address your question to.
Ravi Chaudhary from CMIX Consulting Group. There is an increasing realization that India is likely to emerge as a strong manufacturing base in automotive, ancillaries, pharma, and biotech sectors. The question I would like to ask from panelists, what are the other sectors where India has factored advantages, but somehow there are some policy framework deficit which is not encouraging this? Deepak Puri mentioned about the current government proactivity in bringing about increasing reliance on electronic hardware as a center for focus. What are the other areas where India could become a manufacturing hub?
Can I take that?
Yes.
Thank you. This is something that's the interesting thing you brought out on electronics. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many of you folks know, electronics impinges today in its virtual and its physical form nearly every aspect of manufacturing or every manufactured product. You name it, you got it. Your aircraft has it, your cars have it, your mobile phone has it, your laptop has it, even the watches have it. This electronics. There's some kind of a processor sitting there. It's the single largest industry, manufacturing industry in the world. Of gross product, 0607 statistics available to me, of 1.35 trillion US dollars. Therefore, India, whose role today, and I hope that answers your question, is only at 0.7% of the world gross product. It has an immense value for India to invest into manufacturing in this sector today. And as I said, if that 65,000 crores which translates very roughly, depending on the exchange rate, of $15 billion investment comes into high technology manufacturing, we are well on our way to create an ecosystem in the country today of leading, because that impinges every other. It connects with every other manufacturing projects. And I think we are well on our way then. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Alan at the
Thank
end,
you,
and then
Paul.
Stephen.
If I were to bet on my own money, I think I would bet into what I call the green economy for the future. And you look at the future, no matter how oil prices are going to move up and down, etc., it's about the planet which has been suffering from all the damages that we created over the last few decades. And there are a lot of ideas about fuel-efficient machines. There are a lot of ideas about environmental friendly tools, appliances. And this will become very important, taking center stage in the economy for the next 5 to 10 years. And my suggestion to friends over here, think along that line. Life science is important, but it's not going to create the number of jobs that India would need. We need to go back to the basic, but focus on the green economy. Thank you.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think I agree with what has been said so far. I think one of the learnings from the small car segment is that I think there was a lot of overlap between the domestic demand and the ability to export the products that fit that domestic demand. So I don't have a perfect answer to your question, but that's one way I would pick it up. I would look for products where there is inherent demand in India that can then be exported, maybe not to the US or to Europe, but to places like Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. And again, it's a little bit the same as small car, but I'd look for things, I wouldn't call the small cars low cost or low price, I would call them fit for purpose. And I think there are many things that would fall into that category. Fit for purpose agricultural machinery, fit for purpose construction machinery, fit for purpose water sanitation material. There could be many things that would fall into that category. That's how I pick it up.
Okay.
I'd quickly add, looking at the internet as a platform for software development, as a product in and of itself, and also as an enabler for more traditional manufacturing sectors. When you look at the IT Act, when you look at the voice over IP, positions on voice over IP, and allowing for interconnection between the internet and the telephony infrastructure. When you look at taxation, points of view on taxation for e-commerce over the internet. In an ideal world for India, having a set of policies and philosophies that are towards enabling more and more development on the internet, that will ultimately help manufacturing, because India's end state as a great manufacturing presence in the world will come from low-cost, high-productivity performance. And a huge element of being a low-cost manufacturing player in the world will come from the efficiencies that can be reaped by maximizing the value of the internet as an e-commerce platform, as a communication platform for communication between parties in the value chain, as well as intercompany efficiencies, process improvements, as well as decisioning and customer insight, collection of data about customers, from customers. Earlier was mentioned the phenomena of blogs and social networking. So I think the policies in and around the internet as a platform towards low-cost manufacturing are absolutely essential.
Okay, we had one here, and then we'll do one over there. So. Yeah, so.
My name is Mike Johnston from the United States, the Capital Group. I think my question is for Mr. Mueller. I've been through factories, manufacturing factories in China, the United States, the UK, Germany, and I was told once that the reason the Japanese put automobile assembly plants in Tennessee was that they found the people there were the most educable, even though they were not educated. And I've heard from many people in India, and I haven't been through a manufacturing facility in India, many business people, that they have trouble not just finding skilled workers, but actually educating those workers to do what needs to be done on the manufacturing floor. You said that people need to work with their hands. I'm not thinking about the Google engineers or the university graduates. I'm thinking about people at the lower end of the job spectrum. Is Volkswagen doing something different to either attract people who can be educated in the working with the hands? Because that's not a story that I hear as commonplace in India, that people who work on the shop floor, you know, putting things together is not it's not the kind of culture typically that one finds in India.
This is what I tried to say in the beginning, that it is important to attract people to work with their hands. Like this, I would say this also. And this could be if there is a kind of perspective behind this. This means if one can give people skills and potential to create something because of their knowledge they got, we can create a kind of perspective, and this could attract people to work in this area and in this field, because it is important. If you see other areas, you have this effect. So, and for us now, to come to your question, for us now, it is first the point that we get first people coming from, let's say, these institutes and schools, that they have some, let's say, at least knowledge, basic knowledge, but to bring them into our plant, to give them the skills they need, we have to do something at the moment. This means we have qualification programs running, and this starts with the selection of the people. The people have to go through a skill test. We want to see whether they have the capability to handle tools, to do several things which are important, to work in a paint shop with a special things which are needed. This we test. And then we see, and there we have worldwide experience how to do something like this. And then we see if the people have these skills, they have to go to several qualification steps until they come to that point where we say, okay, now he is able or she is able really to bring what is necessary in terms of quality. This is the first, most important thing, to achieve the quality demand, and then also the productivity demand. But this does not come from alone. There we have our programs in place.
But I want to make a comment here. I come from a state of Punjab where I will give you the example of two towns. One is Badala, which is known as the foundry town of Punjab, and the other is Ludhiana, which is represented by Mr. Munjal, who is sitting to your right and who created the Hero brand. It is generally joked and also believed that you give to the foremen on the factory shops in these towns particularly, and this extends to other districts also, any machine, however complicated it may be in terms of technology, if it can be fixed by hand, you just have to show it to them and they'll do it. And I'm not saying this with a proclaimed bias because I'm an Indian. I'm saying it to you because that's the truth. Therefore, to say that it is difficult to educate people here is quite wrong. They have the basic skills, in fact not only basic skills, they have more judgment than most of the educated people in universities have. What our people need is training in the use of high technology to sharpen the knowledge that they have and to apply it into the global production process chain One of the consequences of globalization is that the production processes have become transnationalized. So the transnational corporation production processes will not admit of any intervention until it is aligned with technological excellence and the technologies that are in use, whether these are the IT technologies or these are the manufacturing technologies or whatever. Therefore, the challenge is that as we move ahead in our quest for technological excellence, we will need more and more of our people to be educated in the use of technology, and certainly high technology. I must conclude by saying that we have the unfortunate position here that only 9% of our manufacturing output in the country is driven by high technology. We need to enhance this from 9 to at least 30, 40, 50%.
As said, if that foreman in Punjab is taking orders, I've got quite a few things I need fixing. We had a question right over here, and then we'll go over there.
Yeah, Martin Hemmick from Stanford University in Setim. I'm benchmarking the venture capital industry, which includes US, Europe, Israel, China, and India. And if I really look at the data, and we are talking about commercializing innovation, venture capital here in India, let's be clear, by US definition, is not really a technology-driven, it's not an early stage. So my concern is that only 11% of the 550 million which got invested last year by venture definition, which is a third of Israel, which is a fifth of China, is only 11% is in pre-revenue companies. I'm at the IITs, I visit them, I go to the incubators all over in China for India in 5 weeks now, and last time. And it's very hard to get funding, technology funding, for early stage companies here in India. My question is to Minister Kumar, what do you see is the issue, or no one wants to take the risk and the bet on early stage. Not, the VCs are relatively late stage compared to any other nation which is in advanced venture capital industry.
Well, I have a short answer to that question. I do recognize that there is a gap there, and that our venture capital institutions have not either been successful in generating the kind of an ambience that we need for that, nor have we, in my view, given enough thought to the need for having a very strong venture capital base here. It is clearly the need of the hour, and I have myself recommended that we need to do something very quickly to set in motion a governmental sponsored process that would encourage venture capitalists in this country to invest and to kickstart many new ventures.
I'll just add a point there. I actually would question maybe the premise of the question. I think, venture capitalists don't create new products. They don't innovate. They fund it. And they're in the business of looking for returns. And the truth in India is that you could earn tremendous returns up till very recently as a private equity growth investor. So a very rational decision by most of these organizations was to invest in existing revenue-generating cash flow businesses and earning phenomenal returns instead of taking relatively more risk by funding pre-revenue early-stage companies. It's a very rational decision. The net effect of it, though, is very detrimental to society, but the venture capitalists are not going to be the ones who create the ideas. To me, the real challenge is in the soft area, and I'll go back to my point about risk-taking. If you go survey graduating class from an IIM, or which I've done and others in my organization have done, there isn't the same desire to go start a company from the outset. And there's a myriad reasons. That's not really meant to pass judgment. There's a whole set of reasons for why that's the case. Where I would be looking for innovation that is latent, I believe, is you have such a vibrant IT services industry with people who have truly global experience working with the best-in-class companies dealing with the most complicated problems. Resident in these companies is an understanding of the common denominator of opportunities in enterprise software, opportunities in demand management, marketing automation. You have a tremendous amount of competency on what will make the 21st century enterprise succeed. How can we take that understanding and provide incentives to those people to take a risk, build great products for India, for the world? And so I think the energy has to be really focused on that. The heart and soul of all of this will be the entrepreneur.
Okay, we had a question over there, right there, and then we'll go to the back of the room after that.
My name is Pranay Dhabai. I'm from Higher India. My question is to the Honorable Minister. China is the manufacturing hub of the world, and we have our own competencies in other industries as well. What is the government's view for encouraging or trying to make India also something similar in terms of manufacturing, which could be in terms of the policies, providing incentives, making certain social changes or technologies that you just mentioned? So what is the view on this aspect?
Well, government is quite clearly interested in seeing that we catch up with China. As we said, we are way below China in volume-based manufacturing. In certain areas, we are ahead of China in skill-based manufacturing, in technology-based manufacturing, but on an overall basis, we lag behind China, even in technology-based manufacturing. We know that China is competing with America to give a run for its money to America in high-tech manufacturing, and therefore it is time for India really to catch up. Now, what should the government be doing? I think government has been interacting with industry on a continuous basis. It has realigned its policies to kickstart manufacturing to the extent possible, but at the end of the day, to ensure efficiencies in production, to ensure competitiveness in terms of quality and price will essentially be a function of the industry. I believe in the obligation of the government to create the necessary ambience through policy interventions to enable the industry to achieve those targets. But essentially, it will be the function of profitability, it will be the function of entrepreneurial skills, it will be the function of management, the application of technology, the penetration of markets, creation of brands, which at the end of the day will be a function of the industry and entrepreneurs.
We had a question towards the back of the room. Has that person withdrawn their question or not? No. Okay. All right, then let's go to that, over that side of the room. There we go.
My name is Venkat Selam from Underwriters Laboratories, and my question is primarily addressed to the Honorable Minister and partly to Mr. Puri. One of the biggest issues that we have in manufacturing and even in the society in general is the inadequate power supply. And one of the most advanced forms of manufacturing is in photovoltaic panel manufacturing for grid supply. What is the government's thinking in terms of providing subsidies to photovoltaic panel manufacturers or farms being set up for supply into the grid?
Well, if my understanding and information is correct, there are a number of incentives that have been granted to industry in encouraging these alternative sources of energy. And quite clearly, as you rightly pointed out, the main bottleneck in India's economic development has been inadequate supply of energy and electricity. And that is the reason why we believe that the Indo-US Civil Nuclear Agreement is a historic agreement, because it will ensure to us about 50,000 megawatt of clean nuclear power in the foreseeable future. Now imagine what it does. I have done some statistics to sell this proposition. Even if we were to generate 20,000 megawatts of additional nuclear power, this additional nuclear power would be enough to power every single tube well in the country of the marginal farmer, or alternatively, it would be enough to bring electricity to every single household in the country. Our needs are going to quadruple in the coming 4 years of power. I think we will need 450,000 megawatts of electricity by 2017. We are therefore trying every possible combination to augment the production of power through all sources, conventional and non-conventional. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that your question over there.
whilst I agree that there is an inadequate supply of power in some of the states. I mean, our two fabs today are in the state of UP at Greater Noida. Now, I know you folks know that the situation of power there, but then you have to have, and you are unfortunately using fossil fuel then, is to set up your own generating. You do another business called your own power business. We generate 90 megawatts of power. When, if you recall, 4 years ago, when there was a big blackout in Greater Noida, we supplied power back to the grid in order to at least light the town, and we shut down one of our fabs. But, gentlemen, all is not gone. It is, you have states available in India today. We have an excellent deal going with the Tamil Nadu government, and I applaud them on this. They have promised us 3 grid connections. And Minister, that's a fact today. 3 grid connections to us from 3 different sources. Therefore, with judicial management of that power, which is 3 times coming in, you need very little of fossil power to sort of take care of it. But, you know, you suddenly get into then, India is going to go, the Prime Minister's Climate Change Council is going to look at, as the Minister has himself said, the alternate states of, alternate energy, you know, methods of generation of energy. And that could be wind, and it's the largest in the world, which is going to be there, and in India also is going to be solar. So if you have every building which is coming up in this country today, with 15% of its power requirements during the day generated by solar or wind, if it's in a locality which is correct with the wind, I mean, you got problems licked fairly easily over a period of the next 5 to 7 years, but there's still time to go as yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, we had a question, one here, and then we'll go over that side of the room there. So here first.
Rich Kothari from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. My question is to Mr. Rao. Well, we all know that Google organizes the world's information and makes it accessible. The problem in India, of course, around access is the technology, but a bigger problem of access is obviously reading and literacy levels. About 600 million people today actually cannot access information even if they have the technology to access it. One way to approach this is probably to say, okay, the government will solve it when it does it. The other is to say, you are seen as an innovative company, and it's almost an expectation or perhaps a hope that Google will also play a major role in innovating in solving the problem of literacy. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that we are certainly forced at Google, and I'm sure other companies in our position are forced to think about decoupling the prerequisite of literacy to take advantage of the benefits of technology like the internet. And one simple way to think about that is to think about video. We run a platform called YouTube, and unfortunately in India the broadband penetration is quite low, so the full benefits of YouTube cannot be realized. Even on a mobile phone, given the state of the wireless networks, we're yet to have 3G auctions and yet to build out a 3G network for the country. Accessing video on a mobile device is equally challenging, if not more so. But in the long run, as the networks supporting this build out and become more robust, and inevitably they will, and I'm very heartened by the fact that as I work in the industry and also talk with various people in the government, there's a lot of attention and focus now, and I think you'll see plenty of innovation over the next 3 to 5 years in solving this issue of broadband, a lack of broadband access. But, so one answer is you rethink the input and output forms for information. So also in India culturally it's an oral tradition. There's a lot of content, a lot of information that isn't necessarily resident in a published text. So audio as an input, audio as an output, video as an output for information, these are ways in which you can potentially circumvent the issue of literacy. Literacy won't get solved overnight, right? So you have to, instead what you have to do is accommodate the demographics and the profile of the country and the people today, and instead figure out how to address their needs given the current situation. And so we're looking at alternative methods of input and output to address that problem.
afraid we only have time for one more question, and over here.
Yeah, my name is Alok Sharma, and this question is in my individual capacity, not from my organization. This is more of an observation. Then when we compare ourselves with China, we see a lot more women in manufacturing sector than we see in India. That's one difference that we have seen, and most of the women in India in particular have moved or shown preference towards service organizations than for manufacturing organizations. It could be because of the ecosystem or because of the comfort, convenience that they see. Is the government thinking of actually bringing this large pool of unemployed, employable women into manufacturing sector?
Well, one of the focuses and priorities of it, as you know, is the empowerment of women. And this can be done only in two ways. One, in educating them, upgrading their skills, and then making them as active components of our production and manufacturing processes. We have taken a number of steps in that direction, but to start with, these have been in rural-based or agro-based industrial sector, which is closer to their homes in the villages, where they can go out to work and come back to their homes in the evening, and also where they can be a part of the manufacturing processes on a job rate basis. I can assure you that, and I say this from personal knowledge because I have personally been involved in very many empowerment programs in my own district, that the intelligence, the capacity for hard work and diligent work of the women is next to none. And therefore, our own focuses has been to make them equal and active participants in the economic and development process of this country. And we will continue in that direction, and we will try and upgrade their skills to the level where they can be in skill-based manufacturing or semi-skill-based manufacturing at any point of time.
Okay. We do have to wrap it up there. We're right out of time. It's clear from this session that there's a great desire here in India to move the technology forward, to develop the technological base of the country, and there's also very clear that there's a great deal of skill in the country, and that skill now has to be utilized in order to get that technology forward. Thank you very much, everyone in the audience, for your questions today, and thank you, of course, to my guests, Ashwani Kumar, Minister of State for the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Deepak Puri of Moser Bayer, Jörg Müller of Volkswagen India, Stephen Veldone of Booz Company, Shailesh Rao of Google, and Alan Marr of BT Asia Pacific. Thank you all for joining us today.